Coming out of high school at 18 years old, people really expect you to know what you want to do for the rest of your life. And sometimes that's just not possible. If I ended up with the same path I imagined at 18 years old, I don't think I'd be nearly as happy as I am now. Luckily, I was forced to undergo a lot of growth in my 4 years at Findlay, and I'm so happy that I did. I originally came to Findlay because I wanted to be a veterinarian. It had been my passion for the past 14 years, so I figured, hey, why not make a career out of it? But on the very first day of freshman orientation, I decided to change my major to English, which is about as far as you can possibly get from a science degree. So that was obviously a big career change. This was something that I had no experience in, like none. I had taken the high school English classes, but that was about it. So this was kind of the start of a trend to a lot of changes in my life too. And with this trend that I unexpectedly made, a lot of things that I thought would work out didn't. One change that I didn't go through with, which I'm lucky I didn't, was transferring to another school. By the end of my freshman year, I had decided I wanted to go somewhere else. Unfortunately, Findlay's kind of expensive. And since I was only doing an English degree now, I figured I could get that somewhere else. But luckily, I could not leave the people that I had met at Findlay, so I decided to stay and stick it out. Another thing that I thought would work out but didn't was the relationship I was in when I came into college. He was a guy from my high school and we had met just the summer before. He went into the military and I went into college. I thought it was a love story right off the bat, so of course, I kept going with it. I was completely in it, but I can't say the same for him. The relationship lasted about a year and a half, but it was a rough year and a half. The relationship was a little bit more toxic than I would like, but it's a good thing that it ended. Of course, I didn't see it that way when it happened. That relationship breakup was pretty tough on me. I really felt like I had lost myself through it because I invested so much of my time in him rather than investing it in myself and making sure I was okay. I always spent my time picking up after him to make sure he was doing all right instead of really looking after my own happiness. And so when that relationship ended, I felt like I was empty and I had nothing. During this tough time for me with this breakup, which I took pretty hard, I also ended up losing my grandpa the summer before my junior year, and I took that equally as hard. He was one of my best friends. He was the last of my grandparents, and I was really close with him. So it was honestly the worst summer that I've had so far. My mom and I were kind of on fighting terms. I was moving into a new house. I was just going through so many changes that I wasn't ready for, and I didn't know how to handle them well. I was experiencing so much anxiety because I just couldn't take all of it. I felt like I wasn't good enough for things anymore, and I didn't know how to pull myself out of that slump. In order to get out of this slump, I really had to rely on things that I loved. That included people, places, anything really. I had to start looking at what beautiful things I already had in my life. I ended up traveling the world. I went to see Spain and I studied abroad for 3 weeks. It was such a beautiful experience overall, and I truly learned how to be more independent because I had to be. It was the first time I was without my parents, especially in a country thousands of miles away. But it was an experience I will never forget and something I will always carry with me. I relied on the support of my friends and family pretty heavily at this time. It was really rough for me, but they were willing to pick up the pieces whenever I needed them to. They wanted to make me laugh when I was down, give me a hug when I was crying, or just be there for me when I didn't want to be alone. It really was something I am always grateful for because I know that they have my back no matter what. Remember how I said that I thought about transferring? Well, when I decided not to, I also decided that I wanted to do something different to get more involved on campus, so I ended up joining a sorority. I joined Sigma Kappa in my sophomore year, and I really needed them about a year later, because they were there for me whenever I asked them to be. I lived with a few of my sorority sisters, and they became my best friends. I truly don't know what I would do without them, because the sisterhood has honestly saved me in more ways than one. I relied heavily on those who had my back, but I also found new ways to chase the happiness that I knew I deserved. Coming into my junior year, I also decided to adopt my forever friend. I found Cleo the summer before. She was 60 pounds, and for a newfie mix, that's severely underweight. She had no hair on her butt. She had 1,000,001 infections with fleas and ticks and all that fun stuff. But I knew when I looked into her face that she was going to be my best friend, and she turned out to be. I am so thankful that I found her. I know that you're supposed to say, oh, you saved a dog when you adopted one, but honestly, she saved me. On a different note, I ended up finding a different kind of love later in my college career. He was a frat guy and she was a sorority girl. What more can I say, I guess? We ended up meeting at one of our friends' house, and I guess we never looked back. We've been dating now for almost a year and a half, and I am so incredibly excited to see where it goes next. I've never felt so loved in my life, and I couldn't ask for more. It's funny how these things happen when you're not even looking for them. I held each of the people and places that I love close to my heart as a reminder to keep pushing. I needed to find my own strength to get through these obstacles that were in my path. And eventually, I did. So, that was some good news. And even though times were tough, I still knew that I needed to focus on school. I put my all into all my classes. I presented at the Symposium for Scholarship and Creativity, and I even went to the National Conference on Undergraduate Research to present my research on student activism, which is really cool. And it all paid off, and I have to thank Finley for it, for giving me so many opportunities to do so. I should be graduating this week, magna cum laude, which I'm very excited for. I've worked really hard to find my own strength these past 4 years, and I truly think that I have, but I couldn't have done it without everyone in my life right now. It's really going to prepare me for the future, to take on any other tasks that I might have to. Finley has brought so much wonderful change into my life, even when I was pretty reluctant to accept it. I can't imagine spending the past 4 years anywhere else, and I'm so glad that I didn't have to. There's only one word that comes to my mind when I think of Finley, and that's home.